My wife's affair partner, a wealthy real estate developer, convinced her to forge my signature on a $500, $0 property deal, and now she's claiming I have no rights to our family home after he manipulated her into falsely accusing me of abuse. Can I really be losing everything over her betrayal? I never thought I'd be the guy whose wife cheated on him, let alone find out she'd been lying so blatantly about everything. It all started with small signs, little things that didn't seem like a big deal at first. Sarah, my wife, had always been a little bitchy when she was stressed, but lately she'd become downright hostile. She'd snap at me over nothing, cancel plans last minute, and suddenly she was always busy with some new project or working late. I brushed it off, telling myself she was just stressed or overwhelmed, but deep down I felt something was off. Then came the real shocker. I was going through our bank statements, just trying to get a handle on our finances, and I saw a wire transfer for $250, $0, less than a week ago. I didn't recognize the account it went to. I called the bank and they told me it was sent to a real estate developer named Big Guy, wealthy, known for flipping properties all over town. I thought maybe it was some investment thing, but then I remembered Sarah mentioning a new business opportunity with some guy she'd met at a charity event. Still, I didn't think much of it until I dug deeper. I looked into. Turns out he's a real estate tycoon, wealthy, arrogant, and the kind of guy who thinks money can buy anything. I found out he's been pushing Sarah hard, convincing her to do things I'd never have imagined. I started noticing strange things, her phone always hidden, her messages deleted, her being unreasonably defensive whenever I brought up her whereabouts. One night I caught her sneaking out of the house after I'd gone to bed. When I confronted her, she spun some bullshit about staying late at work, but her tone was defensive, almost guilty. Then I found the evidence I didn't want to see. A set of texts between her and explicit and suggestive, talking about taking care of everything and making sure the deal goes smoothly. I saw her talking about forging my signature on a property deal worth $500,000, something I'd signed for months ago, or so I thought. It was all there in her own words. She convinced me to sign papers I never read carefully and had manipulated her into forging my signature on a deal that would give him control over our family home. The emotional blow hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt betrayed, angry, and utterly stupid. How did I miss all the signs? How did she manage to lie so convincingly? She was always so bitchy, so dismissive lately, and I just thought she was stressed. Turns out she was planning her escape with the whole time. The worst part, she's now claiming I have no rights to our house, saying I'm abusive and unfit to keep the home I helped build. It's like she's trying to paint me as the bad guy after all she's done. I'm still trying to process how everything spiraled so fast and how I got played for a fool. After I found the texts and the bank records, my head was spinning. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My wife, Sarah, had been lying too. For months, maybe even longer. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted with everything, was secretly working with the real estate developer to pull off this massive scam. She convinced me to sign papers I never read, forging my signature on a $500,000 property deal. And now she's telling me I have no rights to our house, that I'm some kind of abusive monster. That was the moment I realized I'd been played. I remember sitting there, staring at the screen, feeling my stomach turn. Part of me wanted to scream, to break something, to yell at her for lying, for betraying everything we had. But I also knew I had to confront her face to face. I couldn't let her keep spinning her lies, not after everything I'd uncovered. So I waited until she got home that night. I was tense, furious, and hurt all at once. When she walked in, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor, I was already waiting in the living room. She looked annoyed, but that flicker of guilt in her eyes was unmistakable. I didn't waste any time. I threw the evidence in her face, texts, bank statements, the forged signatures. Her eyes widened, and she started to spin some bullshit about how I was overreacting, how I didn't understand the deal, how she was just trying to protect us from losing everything. But I knew better. I knew exactly what she had done. She started crying, which made me angrier. Not because I didn't feel bad for her, but because it was such a damn act. She's always been good at playing the victim, twisting things around to make herself look innocent. She told me she was doing what she had to do. That convinced her they could make a fortune, and she thought I'd be okay with it. I told her she was full of shit. I'd been feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. The betrayal cut so deep I didn't even recognize myself anymore. In that moment, I felt a surge of rage. How could she do this? How could she lie, cheat, and manipulate me? All the years we spent building a life, and she was just throwing it away with. I wanted to scream, to shake her and demand answers, but I kept my cool. I told her I'd be calling a lawyer. First thing in the morning. I needed to know what legal rights I still had, what she'd done behind my back, and how I was supposed to come out of this intact. The emotional toll was overwhelming. I kept thinking about the future, our home, our life, everything I thought I had with her. Suddenly, it all felt fragile, like it could shatter at any moment. I couldn't believe I'd let her get away with this. I felt stupid, naive, and betrayed beyond words. My mind kept racing, trying to figure out what I could do next, how to protect what was mine, and how to deal with the gut-wrenching realization that the woman I loved had been lying to me for so long. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding and my stomach was in knots. I replayed everything in my mind: the lies, the betrayal, the way she looked at me while spinning her bullshit. I knew I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I had to act fast. First thing, I picked up my phone and called the lawyer I'd been recommended. I needed legal advice on how to handle the situation, especially with that forged signature and the threat to my rights over our house. Sarah kept calling me that morning, trying to explain herself, but I didn't pick up. I wasn't ready to hear her lies again. Instead, I started gathering everything I could: emails, texts, bank statements, the forged documents. I knew she was trying to gaslight me, make me doubt what I'd seen, but I wasn't going to let her. I also hired a private investigator. I wanted to know how deep her involvement with really was, if there was more I didn't see yet. When I finally met with my lawyer later that day, he confirmed what I'd feared. The forged signature was a serious felony, and its entire operation was built on deception. My rights as a husband were in jeopardy, especially since Sarah had been manipulating the legal process. The lawyer told me I had grounds to contest the deal, to get a restraining order, and to push back on her claims of abuse. But he warned me it wouldn't be easy. Sarah was good at lying and was wealthy and connected. I'd need to be prepared for a fight. That evening, I confronted Sarah again. I told her I knew everything, that I had evidence, and that I wasn't going to let her ruin my life. Her face twisted into a sneer. "You're just jealous," she spat. "Is better in bed, and at least he's got money. You're nothing but a loser who can't handle a real woman making her own choices." I couldn't believe how she was twisting this around. She was lying, gaslighting, trying to make me doubt myself. She even claimed I'd hit her once, which was total bullshit. That was her way of trying to manipulate the situation, to turn everyone against me. I felt a mix of rage and sadness. Rage because she had betrayed me so completely, and sadness because I'd loved her, trusted her. I'd built a life with her, and now I was facing the possibility of losing everything: our home, our future, the woman I thought I knew. But I also knew I couldn't let her get away with it. I had to fight for what was mine, for my reputation, and for my sanity. As I sat there, feeling the weight of all this, I realized that I had to cut ties with her. No more excuses, no more believing her lies. I decided to move forward with the legal battle, to protect my rights and to expose her for what she really was: someone willing to destroy everything for money and a quick escape. I was furious, hurt, but also determined. I wasn't going down without a fight. The days that followed were a blur of legal meetings, back and forth with the lawyer, and trying to keep my head above water emotionally. Every time I thought about Sarah, I felt this mixture of betrayal and rage that was hard to contain. She kept claiming she was doing what she thought was best, that was going to make us rich, and that I was just jealous of her success. It was all bullshit. I knew she'd been manipulated, but hearing her lie so effortlessly made me question everything I'd ever believed about her. I decided I had to see what was up to firsthand, so I hired a private investigator. I needed to know how deep this rabbit hole went. Turns out, was more than just a wealthy developer. He was known for bending the law, pushing boundaries, and convincing women like Sarah to do his dirty work. The investigator uncovered that had been paying her for her involvement, funneling money into her accounts under the table. That was the moment I realized how far she'd gone. She wasn't just a victim. She was an active participant in this whole scheme. Meanwhile, Sarah kept up her act, trying to spin stories about how I was abusive, how I'd hit her once in a drunken rage. I knew she was lying. She's always been good at twisting facts to fit her narrative. But her accusations made things complicated legally. The police got involved, but they found no evidence of abuse, just her word against mine. Still, she kept pushing her lies, trying to make me look like some kind of monster. It was like she was trying to erase all the years we'd spent together, replace me with, and walk away with everything. One night she confronted me again. Her voice was cold, calculated. She told me I was holding her back, that I was too insecure, and that was the real man in her life now. She even accused me of being jealous of money and success. I looked at her and felt a strange mixture of disgust and heartbreak. How had she become this person? How did she think she could get away with all this? I wanted to scream at her, to tell her she was a liar and a thief, but I held my tongue. I knew I had to keep my composure, gather evidence, and let the law do its job. The emotional toll was brutal. I kept questioning myself. Was I really such a terrible husband? Did I miss the signs? Or was she just that good at hiding her true self? I'd never thought she'd cheat, let alone manipulate me into signing away half our assets. The house, the life we built. She was willing to destroy it all for money. That realization was almost too much to bear. I felt broken, betrayed, and furious all at once. But I also knew I couldn't let her win. I had to fight for what was legally mine, and I had to get through this chaos without losing myself in the process. The legal process dragged on, and every day felt like a new assault on my sanity. Sarah played the victim so well. She called me, crying, claiming she was just trying to protect our family. That was the only one who really cared, and that I was abusive and controlling. It was exhausting listening to her lies, knowing she was orchestrating everything behind my back. I couldn't believe how manipulative she'd become, twisting the truth to suit her needs. The more I uncovered, the more I realized she'd been planning this for a long time. One of the most shocking moments came when I received the official court papers. She was claiming I'd hit her once, that I was an abuser, and that I was unfit to have any say over the house. It was all fabricated. The police report from that night showed no signs of violence. She'd fabricating stories to sway the court in her favor. I knew I had to present my side clearly with evidence. I gathered all the texts, emails, and witness statements from friends who knew my character. I wanted the court to see the truth, that I was a good man betrayed by a wife who'd gone off the rails. Meanwhile, Sarah's behavior grew more reckless. She started spending money like crazy, buying designer clothes, luxury handbags, and even taking trips with. She told everyone she was starting fresh. But I knew better. I had caught her trying to withdraw large sums from our joint accounts, claiming she was paying off debts. But I had the bank statements to prove she was funneling money into accounts. It was clear she was trying to drain our savings and use my name to secure more deals with, all while painting herself as the victim. The emotional was relentless. I'd wake up feeling hopeful, then get hit with a new lie or another betrayal. I kept asking myself how I'd let it get this far. How did I miss the signs? How did she manage to turn my own wife into someone so cold and calculating? I felt like I was losing my mind, but I also knew I couldn't give up. I had to keep fighting for my rights, for the truth, and for some sense of justice. One night I sat alone, staring at the house we'd built together, our home filled with memories. Now it felt like a prison. I realized I had to make a choice, keep fighting for what's right or give in and let her take everything. I decided I'd go all in. I'd expose her lies, stand my ground in court, and do whatever it took to keep what was legally mine. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. The betrayal was deep, but I knew I had to be stronger than ever before. I just hoped I had the strength to see it through. The final court date arrived sooner than I expected. I was prepared, had all my evidence organized, witnesses ready, and my lawyer confident. Sarah, of course, showed up with her usual sharp tongue, trying to spin her tailies and paint herself as the victim. Was nowhere to be seen, probably hiding behind his money, thinking he could buy his way out of everything. But none of that mattered anymore. I knew the truth, and I was determined to fight for it. The judge listened carefully as I laid out everything. How Sarah forged my signature, manipulated me into signing away our assets, lied about abuse, and drained our bank accounts to fund her affair with. I presented the evidence, the texts, the bank statements, the witness testimonies. I saw Sarah squirm under the weight of it all, her facade cracking. She tried to deny everything, but her lies fell apart under cross-examination. Her voice trembled when she was asked about the forged signatures, about her reckless spending. In the end, the court ruled in my favor. The judge invalidated the forged property deal, reaffirmed my rights to our home, and ordered her to return the money she'd taken illegally. I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. It wasn't about the house anymore. It was about reclaiming my dignity. I realized I'd been so blinded by love that I'd let her manipulate me into giving up everything I worked for. Sarah's face was a mask of fury and contempt as she was ordered to pay restitution. She yelled, calling me a jealous loser, but I didn't care. I knew I'd won the battle, but the war was far from over. I'd lost my trust, my marriage, and part of my sense of security. Still, I was grateful it was over, that I stood my ground and fought for what was right. In the aftermath, I moved out of the house. I started rebuilding my life piece by piece. I cut all ties with Sarah and blocked their numbers and focused on healing. I learned a lot from this nightmare about trust, betrayal, and the importance of vigilance. I also learned that sometimes the only way to truly win is to fight back with everything you've got, even when it feels like everything's falling apart. Looking back, I realized the biggest lesson is to never ignore the small signs, to trust your instincts, and to stand up for yourself, no matter how hard it gets. I lost a lot, but I gained clarity and strength. If there's one thing I want others to take from this, it's that you can survive even the deepest betrayals, if you're willing to face the truth and fight for what's yours.